Hi, I'm Charles with Anitruck-kun. The story begins as a man named Tamaki is being stabbed repeatedly. The girl stabbing him sounds like a psychopath as she calls out his name. Her knife begins to glow and Tamaki loses his life. Soon after, Tamaki is shocked to see that he is somehow still alive as he wakes up to find some kind of green monster talking to him. It gives him the name Gabaru and it force feeds him some giant disgusting bug. Gabaru is still too tired to do anything, so he falls back asleep. When he wakes up the next day, Gabaru is surrounded by what he calls a bunch of ugly green babies. He then realizes that he is one of them. This leads him to conclude that he had died, and he was then reborn as a helpless little goblin. 3 days later, Gabaru determines that goblins mature much faster than humans, as he has grown a lot. Gabaru becomes excited when he sees that he has a voice again, and he is very agile. He decides not to overthink things, and he just becomes grateful to have a second chance at life. Gabaru vows to survive the best he can with his new life, and he makes it to day 4. The man that's been feeding them informs all the newborn goblins that they will have to get their own food after this last meal. They all feast on the bugs, and Ro is the first of them to venture outside. Just like before, this world has one sun and a blue sky, but it has some pretty ugly birds. A ton of plants he has never seen before make it clear that Gabaru is in a new world. The goblins are able to speak, so Gabaru teams up with Gobkichi. Gobkichi is the biggest of the goblin kids, and Gabaru teamed up with him, specifically because he will be most useful when helping him hunt. The two of them work together as Gobkichi chases a unicorn bunny, and Gabaru finishes it off. Gobkichi tries to eat without Gabaru, so Gabaru beats him and makes sure that he knows that they're supposed to share. After demonstrating the nature of their relationship to Gobkichi, Gabaru tries to see if he can use the rabbit's horn as a weapon. Just then, he gets a strange vision that says Gabaru obtained the small creature's horn. Gabaru has no clue what that was, but he moves on as Gobkichi is starving. Gobkichi is overwhelmed with emotion as he eats. He cries and thanks Gabaru for helping him get food. Gabaru would just like for him to eat or cry, but not both. On the 5th day, the two hunt a rabbit again, but this time Gabaru uses the horn as a weapon and determines that it's very useful. Gabaru removes another horn and he once again sees the vision. He ignores it so they can eat, but he then has another vision. This time Gabaru hears a voice and it tells him that he learned the ability called escape. Seeing it another time has confirmed something he suspected. Gabaru then explains to us that in his old world, he was born with the extremely rare ESP ability called absorption. This allowed him to eat pretty much anything, and he would have a chance of gaining the traits of whatever he ate. Luckily, it looks like he still has this ability, but sadly it seems like any other abilities he had in his past life have been reset. As Gabaru amazes Gobkichi by hunting a rabbit, Gabaru thinks about how he's actually extremely lucky that out of all his abilities, absorption was the one he kept. This is because in this world, there are a ton of monsters lurking around with incredible powers. On day 6, some girl goblin named Gobmi is amazed to hear that our boys have been eating horned rabbits. Gabaru didn't think it was a big deal, but Gobmi points out that someone just lost their life after being gored by one of those rabbits. She knows that Gabaru is the one in charge, and she admires him for being smart, cool, and strong. Gobkichi wonders what she thinks about him, but she just thinks he is ordinary. Gabaru offers to let her come on their next hunt, and she agrees. The next day though, it ends up raining, so they postpone the hunt for the day after. Gabaru decides to check the group storage to see if he can make a new weapon. He returns with materials to make a weapon, but he cannot forget what else he saw. In the storage, Gabaru found a group of captive human women. The reason why is pretty obvious, but Gabaru would rather not think about it. The elder that watches them is named Gobji, and he is the man responsible for giving Gabaru his very low effort name. The man is impressed with Gabaru and explains that he might level up faster than the others. Gabaru doesn't understand what he means by levels, so the old geezer tells him to tap his head. Gabaru does, and the voice reveals that Gabaru is currently level 86. Gobji explains that once he reaches level 100, Gabaru will be able to evolve into a more advanced life form. Gobji doubts that he will be able to though, since it's pretty rare. It turns out that goblins age very quickly, so this old geezer is just 20 years old. Gobji explains that the others will be returning soon, so Gabaru will get to see what an evolved hobgoblin looks like. The old goblin lets out a maniacal laugh as he wonders what kind of prey they will be bringing back this time. On day 8, the guys go hunting, and Gobmi joins them. Gabmi is in charge of backup, while Gabiru fights at middle range, and Gabkichi is their forward. Their 3-goblin formation works like a charm, and they're able to hunt larger monsters. The food is delicious, so Gabmi tears up as she has only been eating nothing but fruit. When Gabiru eats, he gains several traits from the snake, including venom resistance and something called Evil Eye. This is way more than he got from the other animals, so it's clear that this snake was on a whole other level. The others have no clue what he is talking about, and Gabkichi wants to eat the head of the snake too. Unfortunately, he can't since it's poisonous, and the others would die if they ate it. Gabiru is getting used to things now, so he explains that it doesn't matter how ugly he is. He is determined to survive in this world in his second life. Days 9 and 10 were more of the same hunting, but on day 11 they made the mistake of trying to go into a cave. Their teamwork shines once again though, as Gabiru has Gabkichi protect them with the shield, so he can use Evil Eye on the attacking bats. This stuns them so they can win the fight. They feast on the bats, and this gives Gabiru echolocation, along with a couple other bat traits. They feast as always, but we see that some other goblins starve as they watch them. That night, some of the other goblins surround Gabiru as he sleeps, but the clever goblin always has his search ability active. This allows him to sense that the others are trying to attack him, so Gabiru beats up all 6 of them. One of them is hurt more than the others, so Gabiru realizes that he might not have adjusted his venom correctly since he was in a rush. He plans to teach the rest of them a lesson, but Gabmi is even more upset. She starts choking one of them out, so Gabiru tries to calm her down. On day 13, our group takes on a much bigger monster. Gabkichi gets knocked back, so the clever Gabmi disarms the orc. Gabiru breaks its leg and tells the others that he will take it from there, so they watch as Gabiru slaughters it. Feasting on the orc grants Gabiru the ability to use orc language, libido, and something called Detect Analyze. Gabiru is still thinking about when the others attacked him, so after his friends have had their fill of food, Gabiru decides to bring the rest back so everyone else can eat too. The others are skeptical at first, but Gabiru assures them that it's okay. They all thank Gabiru and begin eating good food for the first time. Gabiru stands over them as they eat, and he thinks about how he never would have even considered helping out the helpless in his old world. It's obvious that his appearance changed since coming to this new world, but Gabiru wonders if something else has changed about him as well. As Gabiru sleeps, he has another vision. It mentions something about how his level values have been exceeded, and he has met all the special conditions. We see that it says something about evolving, but Gabiru is too tired to read any of it, so he just swipes yes and goes back to sleep. One last message reads that Gabiru has received the blessing of the Grand God of Demise and Origin. The next morning, Gabiru finds that he looks a lot more like he did in his old life. A look over at Gabkichi reveals that he has evolved as well. Gabmi is in awe of her friends as she points out that they're a lot bigger and a lot cooler now. Gabji is stunned that they both ranked up already, since it hasn't even been a month since they were born. Gabkichi wants to test out his new strength, so Gabiru assumes that he wants to go hunting. Surprisingly though, Gabkichi wants to test it by fighting Gabiru, and Gabiru actually really likes the idea. The 2 beefed up hobgoblins fight outside, and show that they are much better fighters now. Gabkichi is a bit too slow though, so Gabiru ends up winning the fight easily. Gabkichi is amazed by how strong Gabiru is, but Gabiru explains that Gabkichi has him beat when it comes to pure power. Just then, Gabiru senses that trouble is approaching, and he surprises Gabmi when he knows that she is hiding nearby. He reminds her about the crossbow they made the day before, and he instructs her to go get it. We then see what the danger is as a pack of wolves viciously hunt down some rabbits. An orc runs off as it's terrified of them, but it's no use as the wolves easily destroy it as well. Gabiru determines that they are the perfect target to test their evolved strength, so he has Gabmi start off by shooting one of them with an arrow. Gabiru and Gabkichi then jump in to start smacking the wolves around. Gabiru reveals that he used his venom on Gabmi's arrows, and it has allowed them to easily impair the leader of the wolves. Without their leader, the wolves were uncoordinated. Their teamwork was lacking, so Gabiru and his group were able to make quick work of them. One last wolf remains, but it eventually dies as well. Gabiru determines that it's the leader, so he eats it and it gives him some military leadership abilities. Gabiru gives more food to the others, but informs them that they will have to start catching the same amount of prey that they are provided. They fear that they won't be able to do it, so they beg Gabiru to teach them how to hunt. Gabiru agrees to show them, and they're all even more grateful when he says that he will teach them how to make weapons as well. Gabiru says that it's not a big deal as they are all comrades, and they all begin to cheer his name. Gabiru isn't sure why, but in this moment he feels like he can see the path that he will be taking in this new world. He will eat non-stop to become stronger. He will then lead his comrades to achieve his real goal that puts a smile on his face. 4 days later, Gabiru laments how his comrades still have a lot to learn. They train hard, and Gabiru is shocked when he accidentally walks in on Gobmi. On day 17, all the human women that were captive took their own life, and Gabiru had a quiet memorial for them with Gobji. We then move on to day 24, and Gabiru is training the other goblins. In the meantime, he had also been eating every promising enemy he could find, and learned a lot of new abilities. Just then, another group of goblins begins approaching. Gabiru prepares to protect everyone against them, but Gobji stops him and explains that they are their raiders. Gabiru is then shocked to hear that they are also the fathers of Gabiru's generation of goblins. The raiders have captured another group of human women, and the evil goblins are glad since their last batch took their own lives. It turns out that goblin DNA is so strong that when they mate with other species, it still results in goblin children. Gabiru can understand the instinct to reproduce, but that doesn't mean he's okay with what's going on. He requests that he be the one to look after the human women, but this just upsets the raiders. Gabiru's generation of goblins is ready to stand up for him, but this just begins to divide the two groups. Just then, 2 goblin girls arrive to casually tell the two sides to stop getting themselves into a civil war. They are Hubsato and the mage Habse. These genius girls come up with the brilliant idea to have the leaders of both generations fight, and the winner decides what the village will do from now on. The raider wants to teach Gabiru a lesson, and Gabiru agrees to fight as well. The fight ends very quickly as Gabiru uses some kind of mysterious string. The others can't understand how he did it, so Gabiru explains that it just comes out of his body. He then thinks about how it's an ability he learned that allows him to produce spider silk, and he learned it after eating a demon spider. The girls are amazed that someone like him was born while they were gone, and Gabiru announces his new official status as leader of the village. He asks if anyone has a problem with that, but no one decides to stand up against him. Gabiru then tells the humans that he ordered everyone to keep their hands off of them. He won't do anything either, and they will find the time to send them back to a human village. The girls wonder if they will have to do anything, and we learn that Gabiru wasn't being completely selfless with his actions. He wants the knowledge of the humans. Gabiru asks them some questions, and learns that these girls were part of a traveling business when the goblins attacked them. All the men were slaughtered, and these 5 girls were the only survivors. On day 28, Gabiru is surprised to see that the girls seem happy. He realizes that they haven't gotten over everything, they're just having a positive attitude since it will make things easier. Gabiru cooked for them, hoping that it would help. Among the girls are 2 sisters that are cooks as well as tailors. The one with glasses is an alchemist, and the absent-minded girl is an appraiser and a smith. As for the redhead, she is a rookie warrior, so he decides to have her join their training later. Gabiru then trained everyone hard and insulted them when they got tired. For the next few days, he focused on group exercises instead of hunting, and he beat into them the new rules he set for the group. Day 31 was rainy, so Gabiru and Gobkichi did some really intense sparring as everyone watched in amazement. That night, Gabiru sensed that a group of goblins were about to break his rule regarding the human women. Gabiru sliced right through one of the goblins and restrained the others. He reminds them of the rules he set and punishes one of them for talking back to him. Gabiru apologizes to the women, and the redhead cries in his arms. The other goblins arrive, so Gabiru instructs Gobkichi to take the restrained goblins outside. He also has Gobmi gather the other goblins so they can watch what he's about to do. Outside, Gabiru sends a message to the others by using these guys as an example. He beats them relentlessly and makes sure that everyone really understands their village rules. Everyone gets the message loud and clear, so Gabiru dismisses them. Gabiru stopped just short of ending their lives, which meant that Hopkin, who got the worst of the punishment, passed away the next morning. On day 32, Gabiru's team uses their amazing teamwork once again to take down a Trihorn horse. It was pretty tough, but this just meant that he also received a ton of new abilities. Tri-Burst is one of them, and it amazingly allows him to deal 3 blows with just 1 strike. That night, the redhead goes to sleep in Gabiru's bed, and he realizes that the incident from the night before must have traumatized her. Gabiru comforts her and allows her to spend the night with him. However, when he wakes up, Gabiru finds that Gobmi joined them as well. That day, they also find that the female goblin named Gabi evolved into a hobgoblin as well. Overall, things have been going pretty smoothly. Gobmi runs the ranged unit, and Gabchi is in charge of their armed forces. Hobsato handles the mobility-oriented force, and Gabi has taken over rear support, which focuses on doing chores. Hobsei would act as the captain of their mage force, but right now she is the only mage in their village. For the rest of this day, Gabiru leaves the training to the captains, so he could head deep into the forest to hunt a variety of prey. Gabiru tries out some demise magic, and is shocked to see just how powerful it is, as he easily destroys one of the powerful Trihorns with one attack. Gabiru only realized after this that the magic made him overconfident as he went into the northern forest. There he finds a strange area with a ton of blood, and he remembers something that Gabchi told all the goblins. Gabji warned them to never go into the northern forest for any reason. Inside there is a terrifying crimson monster called the Red Bear. This is where Gabiru finds himself now, and he sees that this monster easily tore through a Trihorn. The Trihorn's armor was incredibly difficult for them to pierce earlier, but it was nothing for this bear. Just then, the Red Bear appears, and Gabiru acknowledges that a normal person would probably try to run away. Gabiru is not a normal person though. He wants to fight it, beat it, and eat it to see what kind of abilities he will get. Gabiru plans to use every weapon in his arsenal, so he starts off by using Phase 1 Demise magic. Back at the village, Gabi becomes concerned as she hasn't seen Gabiru in a while. The others haven't seen him either, so this just makes her more worried. Back with Gabiru, he is shocked when the Red Bear sacrifices his right arm to defend against his Demise spell. The bear unleashes a flurry of attacks, and Gabiru can tell that the refined skill armor he received from the Trihorn won't be able to protect him. Gabiru must go on the offensive, so he goes to attack the bear's head. He is once again shocked though when his weapon isn't able to pierce its skull, and the bear sends him flying. Gabiru covers the bear in string, but it breaks free and shockingly uses a crazy strong fire breath attack. The forest is covered in fire, and Gabiru must heal his wounds. The attack was very concerning, since Gabiru had never seen or even heard of a fire-breathing bear in his past life. This is a very dangerous opponent, so Gabiru realizes that he will just have to be willing to take some damage to win. Gabiru moves in for another attack and protects himself from the fire breath. The beast is pretty tough on the outside, but Gabiru cleverly uses the fire breath attack against the bear, and he pierces it right through its mouth. Gabiru is pleased with himself, but he is shocked to find that it wasn't enough. The ferocious bear knocks him back, and Gabiru does his best to limit the damage he takes. Gabiru still took a lot of damage from the incredibly powerful attack, so he concedes that this round was a draw. His blade is still inside the bear's mouth, so at least it won't be able to use its fire breath anymore. This crazy strong bear still shows no sign of collapsing, but Gabiru is just one attack away from losing his life. Gabiru is at a huge disadvantage, but this guy is crazy as he proclaims that it will just make his meal taste even better. Gabiru goes in for more fighting and manages to deal some damage. It's not enough, so he tells the bear that he wants to eat him already, and he moves in for another attack, but we see that he loses an arm. On day 34, Gabiru has finally won the crazy battle, but he barely survived. Gabiru finally gets to eat the bear, and he receives a ton of powerful traits. Among them are heavy damage and overpowering strength. Gabiru passes out soon after, but we once again see that he has exceeded his level values and met all conditions. This now allows him to evolve into a rare ogre species. His conscience is fading away, so Gabiru simply selects yes without reading. On day 35, Gabiru continues to eat the bear and gains even more incredibly powerful traits. He reaches for his knife, which seems much smaller than before, and Gabiru is shocked to realize that he has become an ogre. Gabiru returns to the village, but everyone is terrified of him, and they fear that they are under attack. They prepare to run as they wonder why the ogre is smiling at them, and they wish that Gabiru was there to save them. Luckily, Gobmi recognizes him, but instead of being surprised by his evolution, she is mad at him for being gone for so long. She just ends up hurting herself, but she still scolds Gabiru. She is upset that he lost his arm, but the others are all amazed that he took down the Red Bear. Gabji is most shocked of all, as he points out that Gabiru was able to defeat the Master of the Northern Woods just 1 month after he was born. Everyone had questions for him, but Gabiru was just glad that he survived and was able to make it to his new home in his new world. Sometime later, everyone is still amazed by Gabiru's evolution, as he has gotten much bigger and stronger looking. Gabiru goes to check on the human women, but he is followed closely by Gabmi and the redhead for some reason. As expected, the humans are terrified of him, but he manages to calm them down by explaining that it's him. Gabmi though seems upset about something as she pinches his leg. The blacksmith is disappointed to see that he wrecked the axe that she made him, but reveals that she has made her knife using a special spirit stone. Gabiru praises her, but finds that the other girls have started to pinch him even harder. The twins need help with their cooking duties, so Gabiru explains that he will assign a few goblins to help them out. Gabiru is impressed that they have gotten used to being around goblins so quickly, so he tells them that they would make great wives. He wonders if they want to be his wives, and they call him a sly dog. Gabiru is pleased by their smile, but once again the redhead and Gabmi get more upset. Gabiru then finds that the alchemist has made poison. Originally it was for self-defense, but now that there is a goblin she can trust like Gabiru, she has no use for it. Gabiru picks her up and admires her smile as well, but he can instantly feel the murderous intent coming from the other girls. Gabiru spent all his time cheering up the girls, but now his spirit is exhausted. On day 36, Gabiru realized that he can no longer train with the others. He has become so powerful that regular goblins were ending up in critical condition from even his lightest punches. Even Gabkichi's armor couldn't withstand them. As Gabiru heals a near-dead goblin, he wonders what's wrong with Gabkichi. Gabkichi says it's nothing as he goes to hunt, but Gabiru can tell that something's wrong. Aside from that, Gabiru has started to notice that Hapsado and Gabmi have started hunting together. The red-headed woman is training by herself, and Gabi is continuing her hobby of mining for spirit stones. As for Gabiru, we see that he can still use his missing arm like it's slime, thanks to the fact that he ate a slime before. Gabiru wonders if Gabkichi will be okay, but Hapsi points out that it depends on how much effort Gabkichi puts in. The two argue as Gabiru wishes Hapsi would give him back his book, and he thinks about how he was finally able to have a relaxing day. On day 37, Gabi panics as she found some little creature in really bad shape. Gabiru does his best to heal her, but she's losing too much blood, so he decides that he will have to get some blood-producing medicine from the alchemist. Luckily it works, so they explain who they are to the thing they call a carbuncle. The carbuncle introduces herself as Litana and reveals that she was attacked by humans. The gem on her head is a high-class material, so its price is said to be as high as 1 billion gold. Litana asks that they lend her their power and begs them to get rid of the humans that attacked her. Gabiru is familiar with the history of the carbuncles. Their master named Velvet was a famous legendary magician, and he created them to watch over his secret treasure den. Litana explains that when she was attacked, her core was broken, so her lifespan was shortened. In the secret treasure room lies legendary class items that Velvet collected throughout his entire life. Litana explains that her master hates humans. He would prefer that the goblins take all the treasure rather than the adventurer humans. They can have everything, so Gabiru declares that they will go. The blacksmith girl gives him his new dagger, but he tells the frightened girls not to worry, as he won't blatantly eliminate the humans. His job is just to get them to leave, but warns that he might have to use some force if they don't listen. They then go through the hole Gabi made, as it's the way to the treasure room. Gabiru decides to try to persuade the humans to leave, so he tells the others to hide. He finds the adventurers who are searching for the treasure room, but they think that he is just another monster that they need to defeat. They attack him but are quickly shocked when he is able to detect the presence of their invisible assassin. Gabiru explains to them that this is someone's house, and what they are doing is robbery and murder. It's clear that they don't have any guilt either, so Gabiru determines that they are beyond saving. The stupid humans are just shocked that an ogre can speak English so well, and Gabiru says that luckily for them, he also has a good heart. They refuse to listen as they attack him instead, but Gabiru just easily dodges it all and once again tells them to leave. They don't listen, so Gabiru analyzes the situation. The humans have 3 in their backline that are using a lot of high-class magic items. Unfortunately for them, it's pretty clear to Gabiru that they are relying too much on level enhancement to increase their fighting strength. This doesn't do much for them since their fighting technique itself is pitiful, and Gabiru is easily able to beat them up. Just then, one mage celebrates as he thinks he just blew Gabiru's head off. They are of course shocked though when it becomes clear that his attack just angered Gabiru. He has allowed them to live up to this point, but Gabiru is done being nice. The humans wet themselves as they realize that their level 3 magic spell did nothing. Gabiru declares that the time for being nice is over. He signals to the others to attack, and they spring into action. Gabiru takes out his blade and tells the humans to regret not leaving when he gave him the chance. Afterwards, Gabiru reveals that they eliminated the adventurers and ate them. This gives Gabiru a bunch of their traits, including Assassin, High Wizard, and Enchanter. That isn't all though, as there were some pretty high level adventurers among them, and they had some pretty good loot. There is a rare ring, an item storage bag with a bunch of items in it, so Gabiru just eats those too. Among other things, this allows Gabiru to summon a cheat item box that can store an incredible amount of items. They then head to the treasure room where Latana thanks them. She explains that her master Velvet is great with spirits, which is why a ton of spirit stones can be mined there. She wishes good health to Gabiru as they say goodbye, and she vanishes. It's a pretty sad moment, so Gabiru just eats the gem from her head that she left behind. The slick Gobkichi wonders if Gabi is okay, and she says that she is fine. They have a moment of silence for Latana, and afterwards Gabiru decides that they will take all the treasure and split it amongst themselves. Gabiru marvels at his item box because it still has a lot of space even after shoving all the treasure into it. Gabiru doesn't like the idea of just leaving Velvet's body there, so he cremates it. Surprisingly, this leaves some kind of gauntlet. Gabiru tries it on and is stunned when this thing attaches itself to him and becomes his new arm. The others are amazed to see it, and Gabiru shows what it can do as it feels just like his own arm. When they leave, Gabiru decides to have a party to celebrate the successful mission. On day 38, Gabiru praises all the loot they got with the blacksmith and finds that everything is insanely rare and powerful. On day 39, Gabiru explains that he gave the 10 hobgoblins in their group some magical items. As for himself, Gabiru chose to take the Vermilion Spear. That, along with 2 other items he chose, means that he now has 3 legendary class artifacts. Legendary class is second only to Phantasm class in item ranks, and it is said that the holder can rule entire countries with just one of them. Later that day, they go hunt for ingredients for some bear soup, and Gabiru's glad to see how strong everyone is getting. On day 40, Gabiru decided to have a tournament to see who would be the leader of the hobgoblins, not including himself. He also established a mercenary group. On day 41, Gabiru goes in search of monsters he has never seen before. The first one he found was a golden spider that dropped some valuable looking items. Eating them allows him to now make gold string that he is sure he will be able to make accessories out of. The next animal was some red deer, but eating just one of them didn't give him any traits. Further exploring leads Gabiru to a great tree. He explains that in this world there exists a species called dryads. According to Gabji, they tempt males from other intelligent species and use them as their own nutrition. Dryads are only females, and they are so beautiful that men are unable to hold back after looking at them. The reason Gabiru is explaining this is because one of these dryads has appeared before him. She admires Gabiru's huge muscles and tells him that she would just like to talk. Gabiru struggles to control himself in the face of her charm, but he must, otherwise she will use him as nutrition. He has to avoid that at all costs, and he can't let his guard down. Gabiru decides that he must use the ability he has never used before called Libido. After taking 5 hours to eat the dryad, Gabiru earns a trait called Dryad's Blessing. The dryad is still alive somehow, so she tells Gabiru to return soon, but he just says that he will if he feels like it. Afterwards, Gabiru takes a bath in the lake and is soon surrounded by lizard men. He declares that today he is invincible, so Gabiru makes quick work of them, and even takes out another monster for good measure. On day 42, Gabiru finds that 2 goblins have an aptitude for magic. They immediately become part of Habse's platoon, but her devious-looking smile worries Gabiru. Later that day, Gabiru learns how to enchant his weapon, but this seems to upset the blacksmith girl. On day 43, Gami is angry at our boy, but no one explains to him why, and they just tell him to use his head. The redhead is just as angry, and the twin cooks seem upset as well, as they try to feed him poison food. The alchemist is surprised that someone as perceptive as Gabiru hasn't noticed, and reveals that the girls are upset because they are jealous. They know that he had a date with someone, and he is shocked to hear that he has kiss marks on his neck. Gabiru had no idea, and he curses the dryad for doing it on purpose. Gabiru tries to think about his next course of action, but he is shocked when the alchemist reveals that she feels the same way and gives him a kiss. She hopes that he accepts her feelings, but Gabiru didn't expect this at all from her. He thinks about how it does make him happy, but Gami arrives furious. She wants Gabiru to treat her the same way, and all the human girls arrive to say the same thing. Outside the room, Gabi explains that Gabiru has sealed it off so they can take care of some work, and Gabiru earns a lot more traits. Thanks for watching my recap. Sign up to my free newsletter if you want to show some support to the channel. Link is in the description.